Back when Ford first released the Mustang, it was so popular that on its opening day, they managed to sell 22,000 of them, and subsequently around 400,000 of them in its first year, instead of the 100,000 that they had originally forecasted. But fast forward around 60 years later, we have the latest iteration, the 7th gen S650 Mustang. However, it seems like the outlook and the future of pony cars have grown a little bit uncertain. The Challenger and the Camaro are no more, and the new Charger that's coming out isn't gonna come with a V8. But don't you worry, because we have the 5-liter Mustang GT with us today, so we're gonna find out in this video whether you should get one. Since the release of the last gen facelift Mustang, the base price of a GT has crept up about $8,500, which means for a 2024 Mustang GT, it's gonna start at around 51,000 Canadian dollars. This unit here is equipped with the 301 equipment group, the GT Performance Pack, as well as the active valved performance exhaust. The Grabber blue metallic color is a no-cost option, but the matching blue calipers is gonna set you back $650. All in, we're looking at 63,000 Canadian dollars. Compared to the last model, the new Mustang has a more angular design, which makes the exterior looks much more modern. The new headlight units also features really cool light up sequence and light up animation, and of course it has sequential turn signals. Over in the center here, the gloss black grille looks really good, and I actually prefer this over the Dark Horse two-tone grille. And then finally, up top, on top of the hood, you get some real vents, which is really rare, but very cool. Off to the side, you get these 19-inch gray alloy rims that are specific to the GT Performance Pack. You also get these Pirelli P0 tires that are really meaty, 255 in front and 275 in the rear. As part of the Performance Pack, you also get these ginormous Brembo brakes, 6-piston up front and 4-piston in the rear. They're spec'd out in this beautiful color that matches the exterior, which is a really nice touch. Now, of course, on the fender here, you also get the 5.0 badging, signifying that you have big V8 under the hood. And then lastly, I really like the bulging arches of the hips of this car. It really shows you the muscle in the pony car. Over to the rear, you get even more Performance Pack goodies like upgraded sway bar, a Torsen limited slip differential, and to tie the whole look together, a nice big performance wing. But we have to talk about the controversial part of the car, the trunk design. It's really sharp, and it's kind of like a reverse triangle. Do I like it? I actually do quite like it, because the trunk lid actually looks kind of like a wing even without the extra wing that we have here. But unfortunately, it reminds me of what a Elantra trunk looks like, which you decide whether if that's a good thing. What I do really like are these taillights, because they are also really cool. Just like the headlights, they have cool animations and they have sequential turn signals. Opening the trunk, I really wish that the trunk would spring open instead of me having to lift it up, but you actually do get quite a lot of trunk space here. It's really deep, and then you can also fold down the rear seats, which means you can put even more things inside. The opening, the trunk opening, is on the smaller side because of the taillight design. It's sort of big, bulky piece here that blocks everything, but you can still easily put a golf bag in here, no problem. There also isn't a grab handle to close the trunk, so you're gonna have to put some fingerprint on your paint, unfortunately. On this vehicle, I've also noticed a few pieces of panel that are sort of misaligned. The panel gaps are kind of iffy on this. Hopefully this is just an isolated case, so be aware of that when you're looking at a car like this. Now down to the bottom, where's the fun part, this vehicle is equipped with the active valve performance exhaust. So let's turn it on and hear how it sounds. First in quiet mode and then in track mode. Under the hood is the famous 5-liter naturally aspirated Coyote V8. And for this generation, Ford has made some revisions to it, including the upgrade to a twin throttle body setup, which means power output is now 480 horsepower and 415 pound-feet of torque, or if you get the performance exhaust like we have here, you get 486 horsepower and 418 pound-feet of torque. Power is of course routed to the rear wheels only through a 6-speed manual G-Track transmission. Alternatively, you can also option this with a 10-speed automatic transmission. All Mustangs have standard limited slip differential, but of course, as mentioned, this one has the Torsen limited slip differential as part of the performance pack. All right, let's get into the rear. It's pretty difficult, but I did manage not to hit my head anywhere. The seats do not move forward, so the foot area is really small and really difficult to get in. And also, after I'm in here, as you can see, I don't have much space. I can't really sit straight. My neck is always tilted. The back seats really in this Mustang is purely for cargo or maybe emergencies use only. But hey, at least Ford decided to add it, so props to them. Now watch me get out, it's even harder. Oh my goodness. Okay, a little bit of a rattly thunk there on the door, but everything else in the cabin is built very well. I can't find any creaks anywhere, even on the screens here, so that's fantastic. This Mustang is spec'd with a two-tone gray and black interior, which I think looks pretty good, considering that the two-tone really breaks up the otherwise dark interior very nicely. The material used is also pretty decent as well. You get a lot of soft touch materials on the door panels, everywhere around here. Even in the transmission tunnel here, it's sort of like a leather skin that's on here in the center, so no complaints there. The seats are cloth. I don't mind it at all. I think it's great because it's not as hot in the summer, it's not as cold in the winter, but they are gray and a lighter color, so they might get dirty quite easily. The seats are generally comfortable, but I do have one big complaint, which is the fact that I don't think it's supportive enough. I feel like I'm sort of sinking into the seat back, and every time I'm accelerating, I feel like I'm kind of like sliding into the seat, even with the lumbar support set up to the maximum. To the dash, the double hump dash is gone for this generation, and in place are these two big screens. If you get the premium, GT Premium, you get a one connected screen type situation, but they're effectively the same screens anyway. The screen animations are really cool, and they are really responsive in terms of the user interface. It probably has one of the fastest processor of any Fords I've tested so far, so that's fantastic. But what's not great is the fact that climate control is still on screen and they're not easy or great to use. I really much prefer a set of physical buttons down here somewhere that I can select my temperature, fan speed, something like that. I also do wish that Ford had kept the lever style switches at the bottom here because I really think they look really cool. Okay, steering wheel. The steering wheel design is good. I really like it. I think it shows a little bit more of a 3D shape to it, which I do enjoy, and there's physical buttons everywhere, so no complaints there. And then as part of the performance pack, you actually get a fake handbrake. This is effectively just an electronic handbrake in this big lever style. Ford says that this is an e-brake that you could drift with, which sounds pretty cool, but unfortunately I don't get the chance to test it out. And to the centerpiece, the 6-speed manual transmission, which brings me to the start button because we have to go and test it out and see how this drives. Sounds pretty good to me. Let's get going. Oh yes. A naturally aspirated V8 in 2024. There aren't very many left of them. So I'm thoroughly enjoying myself. Whew. The engine is pretty rev happy. It has a decent amount of low-end torque, but if you want the maximum enjoyment out of it, you gotta stay north of 4,000 RPM. There, the engine is in its happy place and you get maximum pull all the way to red line, which is 7,500 RPM. The optional active valve performance exhaust in my books is also a must-have, just because it makes a world of difference, especially on early nights and late evenings where you want it to be quiet. The quiet mode in this is really quiet. It's such a drastic difference between quiet and track. And in the louder modes, you definitely do still get plenty of pops, so don't worry at all on that front. In terms of how this engine sounds, it sounds pretty good in my opinion, but I still think that the Camaro V8 sounds just a little bit better. The handling on this is also pretty good. There's a lot of mechanical grip, and the LSD really helps on corner exits. But obviously, you do feel the weight of this thing. I mean, it's not exactly a Miata. The steering feel is also lacking in my opinion. I don't get a lot of feedback, even in the raciest steering mode. It just feels heavier. The suspension, however, on the other hand, is quite good. It's not too firm, and I think it's quite suited for a lot of GT use. The MagneRide is probably better. I have yet to try that, but this is not too shabby. Then we've got the brakes. The brakes, oh man, the brakes are phenomenal in this car. 6-piston Brembos up front, 4-piston Brembos in the rear. The braking power is crazy. It's really good. Woo! Definitely a whole lot of fun right there. On to the gearbox. This is a Getrag transmission, 6-speed, and in my opinion, it's not a bad... Sorry, getting interrupted by the thunderous sound over here. But yes, this is a Getrag 6-speed manual transmission, which in my opinion is not a bad gearbox. It has decent shift feel and the throws aren't long. From what I've heard, the Tremec is much better than this, but for day-to-day, I think this Getrag is good enough. But yes, this car has automatic rev matching, and it also has some sort of like an anti-stall system where it would raise the RPMs as you let off the clutch, so it's practically impossible to stall it off the line. It's a pretty cool feature, I guess. I've never really seen this in other cars so far. But I do have one huge complaint though, and that complaint would be the gearing ratio. I think, in my opinion, the second, third, and fourth gear is way too long, and unfortunately, if I'm buying a manual transmission, I want to roll my own gears, but if the gears are this tall, I can't enjoy it on the road, because even in second gear, I can go way above the speed limit. But I guess one good thing, one benefit from tall gears is that for fuel efficiency on the highway, when I'm driving more of a civilized drive, I actually get really good fuel efficiency. I'm getting about 8.5 liters per 100 kilometers on the highway, which is phenomenal for a car like this. For a big V8, 5 liters, I'm getting 8.5 liters on the highway. I'm very impressed with that. In the city, is around 14-15 liters per 100 kilometers, which is still not bad for what it is. I just wish that the second, third, and fourth were just a little bit shorter, and they would keep the sixth gear as is. That would be fantastic. This Mustang GT is a very fun car to drive. with plenty of power on the highway. I just wish that the gearings were a little bit shorter in the low gears. I think that would add to a lot of the fun. The highlight is, of course, still the exhaust. I think the thunderous sound is fantastic. Those downshifts, I mean, it's great. It sounds absolutely freaking amazing. Gone are the days of the affordable Mustangs, and this is by no means a fully loaded GT, which means that you're missing out on goodies like leather seats, a B&O sound system, adaptive cruise control, things like that. But as spec, I think this GT serves its purpose very, very well, giving me a whole lot of fun without breaking the bank. What do you guys think of the new generation Mustang? Is it the last one standing? Would you get something else for the same price? Thank you for watching. Let me know down in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.